Welcome to the Takeaway Podcast, where we cover the NBA and the NFL every single Wednesday, bringing you the most up-to-date news across both leagues for both sports nerds and newcomers alike. I am your host, Jihan Lee, and today we will be covering the first day of the NBA. Alongside is Russ having some troubles in the offense in Denver, and as well as the Super Bowl competitors of the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs. As we mentioned before, the NBA has officially begun. We have had our first two games between the Philadelphia 76ers and the Boston Celtics, and the Los Angeles Lakers and the Golden State Warriors. So let's start with the first game of the night, which was the Sixers and the Celtics, which the Celtics came away with a 126-117 win. Now, watching this game, the kind of takeaway that I got from this game is James Harden is back. He's healthy. He looks to be a lot more comfortable in this offense, which was something that Doc Rivers actually addressed in one of the interviews he had during the game. And he was basically alluding to how James Harden, he's been given more freedom on the offensive end, where he's able to be more of what he was in Houston, not necessarily like a ball hog, or in that sense, not at all. If you were actually able to watch the game, he was running pick and rolls with Embiid, with Montrezl Harrell, his bounce passes in between the defender who was defending the roller, and then obviously the defender who was on him. He was just he was able to move the ball around. He was able to distribute to everyone who to just distribute the ball, have his teammates touch the ball. Him alongside Tyrese Maxey, they looked really, really good together. It was like a 1-2 punch where it was like your turn, my turn. But for those who weren't able to watch the game, for a quick summary of what happened, James Harden came away with the game with 35 points, 7 assists, 8 rebounds. He was 100% from the free throw line with 12 total. He shot 5 of 9 from the three-point line and 9 of 14 from the field. So he was really, really efficient. He was able to get to the line. He had 12 free throws, which was it's a lot for him. Not necessarily when he was at Houston, but when he was at Brooklyn, when he was at Philly last year, he was kind of struggling to get to the line at a very efficient manner. Obviously, the rule changes could have affected him. Can't say for sure, but it looks like he's found a way where he's able to get to the line. He's able to find a rhythm, and he was able to, sink 12 of 12 in this game. Tyrese Maxey, he had 21 points. Shot very efficient, 50% from the field, 40% from the three, and 100% from the free throw line. Not a huge concern that I had, but it was with Embiid. He had a couple, not necessarily bad turnovers, but turnovers that you wish that you had back. He was stumbling a lot. He hit the deck a couple times, which not majorly, wasn't like high impact, but he hit his elbows a couple times. So he had 26 points, 5 assists, 15 rebounds, sorry. But he did have 6 turnovers. So his plus minus was A- 13, but I don't think that reflects the entire game of what he was actually able to bring. A lot of attention. Obviously, he was commanding a lot of double teams, and that allowed James Harden to attack those closeouts that did come late, or hit shooters like Tobias Harris had 3 3-pointers that he was able to make. Obviously, he was able to make 5. Tyrese Maxey was able to hit a couple as well, and we got to see some of the signings that they were able to bring during the offseason, which particularly what a lot of people were talking about was PJ Tucker. I think he's a really, really nice fit, and really someone that they needed. Someone who was able to defend, someone who was able to shoot the three at an efficient rate, although he didn't make any this game. I think once he is comfortable with this offense and how they run it, I feel like alongside the chemistry that he already has with Harden, I feel like he'll be a great piece for the 76ers team. Now, for the Boston Celtics, the big concern for me personally was how would they operate with their new head coach. I don't know, how would it be a completely new offense, or would he just run what they had before and just continue what they were doing already? And the top two guys did absolutely amazing. Jason Tatum, Jason Brown, they came out guns blazing. They were really, really aggressive early on, and it shows in the numbers. Jason Tatum had 35 points, 4 assists, and 12 rebounds. Jaylen Brown also had 35 points, uh, 2 assists, 3 rebounds. Both of them were very efficient from the field, but struggled a little bit from three. Tatum with 2 of 7 with 28.6% from three, and Jaylen Brown had 4 of 12, which is a 33.3% from three. Now, a really big, I don't know if you could say surprise, at least for me initially, was that they decided to start Derek White instead of having Malcolm Brogdon start. Now, I think this can potentially fluctuate throughout the season, because Brogdon was able to come off the bench and he had 16 points and 4 assists. He didn't make any threes, but he shot really, really efficiently from the field. Grant Williams also came off the bench with 15 points, and ultimately it was their bench for the Celtics that were able to help them come away with a win. The bench for the 76ers, outside of D'Anthony Melton, who only came away with 5 points, were not efficient whatsoever. They had a total of 11 points off the bench for the 76ers. 5 from Melton, 1 from House, 3 from Niang, and 2 from Montrezl Harrell. So it'll be hard to win a lot of games if your team is only, getting 11 points off your bench, with the other team with just 2 players getting 31 points, but in total with 34 points. It's hard to make up that discrepancy, and especially if the top 2 of the other team both drop 35. It'll just be hard to win games. But I think for the most part, the Celtics look good. I'm not hugely concerned after watching this game with Philadelphia. You're playing one of the championship favorites in the Celtics. So if I was a Philadelphia 76ers fan, I would not be worried. In fact, I would feel a lot more comfortable, actually, despite, Embiid having, at least for his standards, relatively, mediocre game. You were able to have James Harden come out, play really, really well, really, really efficiently, and at least for your starting 5, you guys played really, really well. So I think for the Sixers, you can come away with confidence. I think it's just a little bit of concerns for your bench and who really will be playing those key minutes. Because one thing is that, for those who did not know or have not seen the box score, Matisse Thybulle did play but had no stats. But he did play, I think, 23 seconds, so not even a full minute. So he's kind of fallen out of the rotation, despite him being a phenomenal defender. Now, for the second game for the NBA, we have the Los Angeles Lakers versus the Golden State Warriors. Now, this was really, really interesting because we did see during the preseason that they did experiment with Westbrook coming off the bench. For this game, he did start in the starting lineup, and the starting 5 was relatively decent. If I were to tell you guys the full box score, you have LeBron James, 31 points, 8 assists, and 14 rebounds. Anthony Davis, 27 points, 6 rebounds, 4 steals, and Russell Westbrook with 19 points, 11 rebounds, 3 assists, but 4 turnovers. And the biggest concern with this team, obviously, outside of how the team is already constructed, with the lack of shooters, the lack of wing defenders, is the turnovers. This team in total had a total of 21 turnovers. That's a lot. That's hard to, recover from if you're, giving up the ball that much. Luckily, they were able to keep it relatively close, you know, relatively, with the Warriors also turning over the ball 18 times. But with your top three guys having 3 for Davis, 5 for James, and 4 for Westbrook, that's 12 turnovers between your top three guys. That's hard to deal with. So the big thing is Anthony Davis is now playing the 5. Uh, you know, with alongside James and Westbrook, and then Lonnie Walker and Patrick Beverley came into the starting lineup this game. So it's interesting to see that now we're having Anthony Davis play the 5 position, which isn't the position that he likes to play. And in addition to that, it isn't the position that he played when they initially won the championship back in 2020. I think for not only to make this team better, especially on the defensive end, but to keep Anthony Davis healthier throughout the season, I think it'll be better for him to play the 4 and then have a scrappier defensive rebounding kind of 5 alongside him. Now, unfortunately, on their roster, I don't think they really have that kind of guy, so it kind of forces Davis to play that 5 position. Hopefully, he'll be able to stay healthy, and as I mentioned last episode, the success of this team is dictated by Davis and how healthy he can be and how well he plays. I think based off of Westbrook's performance this game, I think you can wait to see if you want to pull the trigger and decide to trade him away. But with the Warriors obviously being the champions last season, I wouldn't be terribly disappointed by this loss, but I would be concerned going forward, especially around the mid-season, maybe 3/4 of the way through the season, if Davis continues to play the 5 and he's banging down low with centers, power forwards, whoever that may be. So hopefully Anthony Davis can stay healthy and we can see the Lakers be a more competitive team and potentially make the play-in or the playoffs in the postseason. Now, the Warriors, they played really, really well as well. Obviously, they came away with the win, and they just look really, really meshed, and the chemistry is still there, despite the small altercation that they had between Draymond Green and Jordan Poole. Now, Steph Curry, he dropped 33 points, 7 assists, 6 rebounds. He did have 4 steals, but he did shoot 4 of 13 from 3. I'm not too worried. It is the first game of the season. For him, I don't think I would be terribly worried about his efficiency from 3. I think it'll eventually average out with his efficiency, but we'll see throughout the season. But I wouldn't be terribly worried about that. Andrew Wiggins, who did sign a big contract, a big extension as well, he was able to drop 20 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists. He was able to knock down 4 of 7 from 3, 8 of 14 from the field. Wasn't able to shoot any free throws, but he did end the game with a plus 25. So he looks to be the perfect wing for this team, alongside Klay Thompson, who dropped 18 points, 3 assists, 2 rebounds, shot 2 of 6 from 3, 6 of 13 from 2, or from the field, I'm sorry. But I think with Curry, with Klay, with Wiggins, with Draymond, with Kevon Looney, that starting 5, they just mesh so well together with your defensive wings who can spread the floor, shoot the 3, and Draymond Green, who's like the defensive mastermind, and then Curry, who's that offensive gear. I think is just a really, really great team, obviously because they won the championship, but hopefully we can see James Wiseman throughout the season to kind of find his role and potentially come and into the starting lineup. He came away in this game with 8 points and 7 rebounds. Did come away with a block, but his plus minus was a minus 11. So hopefully he can come away with learning more on defensive rotations, and I'm hoping that Draymond Green can instill that into the young fella. Now Jordan Poole, he came off the bench. He had 12 points, 7 assists, 2 steals, 2 of 9 from 3, and 4 of 15 from the field. So, pretty inefficient. That's 26.7 from the field and 22.2% from 3. So not the greatest outing from Jordan Poole. Hopefully, seeing obviously as it was, same thing that we said for Curry, because it's the first season of the game. I'm hoping that Jordan Poole can, find his footing again with the pace of the NBA once again. It was they had a long run to the championship, so they played really really late into the year, and so hopefully they can rest, recuperate, find their footing again, and hopefully come out their next game and be who we know who they are. Obviously, Jordan Poole obviously also signing a big extension as well, and it does beg the question on what will happen to Draymond Green at the end of the season. Will he re-sign with the Warriors on a smaller deal, or will he go out and sign with another team, which could cause some problems on the defensive end for this team, losing a guy like Green, who's like that communicator, that defensive guru for them. So hopefully, maybe we'll see some pieces be moved to open up some cap space, some salary. But obviously, that's something that we can be concerned with a little more close to the trade deadline, or in what I think will happen will be the off season. So in the NBA, it has started off really, 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 really great. Honestly, we see both of the two finals teams coming out with 2 wins, both teams playing really, really well. So it looks like they could both of these teams could both look like they are ready to make another run to the finals. And I'm not mad if you're picking any of these two teams, but if you are the Sixers, I would not be too worried either. I think you guys are still a great team as well. And James Harden looks like he's coming back into his own once again. Now, we're going to be talking about this hurts to talk about for me as a Seattle fan, but we're going to be talking about the Monday Night Football game between the Los Angeles Chargers and the Denver Broncos in a 19-16 overtime win for the Chargers. I don't remember exactly if it was last episode or the episode before, but we were talking about new head coaches and the concern that we had for that team. Whether I believe that during that episode, I said a lot of people are blaming Russ for the struggles that they're having on the offensive end, but I was pointing out how Nathaniel Hackett coming in wasn't having great clock management. They were being penalized a bunch, which was another continuation that we saw in this game as well. However, if we look at the box score for Russ during this game, he threw for 188 yards, a touchdown, was 15 of 28, was sacked 4 times, but had a QBR rating of 86.6. He was able to rush for 23 yards on 4 attempts, but that doesn't show the full story of what actually happened. I'm hoping that I can pull this up and give you the exact numbers of what happened. But let me see for a second. Unfortunately, I can't seem to find how to do this on Pro Football Reference. Maybe I can do it on his actual page. Because I want to see how Russ played in the second half of the game, I believe. I can't seem to find it exactly, but if you weren't able to watch Monday Night Football, the Denver Broncos had a 10-0 lead after the first quarter, in which the Chargers were able to respond, closing that lead to a 3-point deficit by halftime. At this point, Russ is playing relatively well. He's distributing the ball. He's passing to his receivers, his tight ends, his running backs. They're able to run and march down the field and get some points out of it. However, in the second half, Russ, I don't know what it was, whether it was, he just the adjustments that Coach Staley made on that defensive end, whether it was Russ not making adjustments on the offensive line, just leaving blitzers unblocked down the middle. But I can't find the exact statistics, but they did mention it after in the post game show, in which he threw, I believe, don't come at me if I'm wrong, I think it was 11 yards on like 4 of 13 or something like that. It was like under like 50 yards of throwing throughout the second half. And this was one of those games where he played so well in that first half that second half you have to be able to close out that game. You guys came out with a 10-point lead. You guys were playing really, really well, in fact, especially on that defensive end. That Broncos defense they've been phenomenal, holding teams like under 20 points consistently. It's just that they weren't able to close the deal. And this kind of begged the question or an idea that I've been having for a while. And I really didn't have a game or a coach player tandem that I could really associate this with. And that is, this could be a hot take, in fact. What is more important to have? Is it a franchise quarterback or is it a good head coach? Like a top tier head coach? Which is more important to have if you're trying to win? Now, the no-brainer answer would be to get a franchise quarterback. You can always hire and look into getting new head coaches, whether they're unproven or proven, but it's so much harder to find that guy, that dude that can win Super Bowls for you, at the franchise level, whether it's, like a Pat Mahomes or Josh Allen or Justin Herbert, whoever that may be. No-brainer answer would be to get a franchise quarterback. But this kind of got me thinking, and this is my opinion on this whole thing. If your goal is to win a Super Bowl, which I believe most teams are, you need to have a franchise quarterback. I don't think that is a question at all. I don't think that is a debate. I think you need to have at least someone in the top 10, top 15 at the very least. Especially in this day and age where it's more offensively oriented games, whether you have to score most of the time 20 plus. You need a quarterback who can throw down the field when you need it, make plays throughout the game. However, I don't think that a quarterback that is good, even potentially franchise level, can overcome a bad head coach. On the flip side, if you have a great head coach, top 10, top 15, we'll keep it top 10 just for discussion purposes. If you have a top 10 head coach in the league and you have a mediocre, below average quarterback, the head coach can what's the word I'm trying to look for? a head coach can make up for a lack of talent at the quarterback position, whether it's through scheme, whether it's through, play calling, whatever the case may be. A head coach can compensate for a lack of talent at the quarterback position. But a franchise quarterback, a top 10 quarterback, cannot compensate for a bad head coach. The reason I say that is the coach is so much more than just the offensive end. It's defensive schemes, whether it's, defensive matchups, defensive play calling. Same thing with the offensive end as well. Obviously, the quarterback can make audibles, adjustments, can, potentially make play calls as well. But it's so much harder to make up for a bad head coach. And I think a great example is the Seattle Seahawks and the Denver Broncos. Now, we can argue at this stage of his career whether Russell Wilson is a top 10 quarterback or not. But for sure, when he was at Seattle, we knew him as a franchise quarterback. And we know Pete Carroll, whether it is now or definitely when he was winning with Russ and had those 2 Super Bowl runs, he was a top tier coach. And Pete Carroll has a 50, or they're 3-3 and have a better record than the 2-4 Denver Broncos. I'm just saying that might be a hot take, but I think that you need to have talent at both of those positions, at the coaching position as well as the quarterback position. And that I think that also begs the question for Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. Yes, Bill Belichick, quote unquote, made Tom Brady in the sense that he drafted him, he put him in, he started him, he was able to make, his plays because Bill Belichick gave him the freedom to. But people are also saying Tom Brady's the GOAT. He went to Tampa Bay as well and, won a championship without Belichick. But I think with both of them together, that is the reason why they were so successful together and they were able to make a dynasty. And I'm not saying Todd Bowles is or I believe is, Eric Bieniemy. I'm sorry. I'm not saying, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the coaches that they have now are terrible, but it's just that it shows that when you have talent at both the quarterback and the coaching position, you guys can make consistent success, be produced. And that shows, Kansas City Chiefs, continuous AFC, or championship contenders with Pat Mahomes, Andy Reid, Josh Allen, and Sean McDermott, Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. We see it throughout history. You need to have talent at both of those positions, but a lack of talent at the coaching position cannot be made up for with a franchise quarterback, at least on a consistent basis. Now, there may be anomalies throughout, history and time where one quarterback was able to make up for a lack of, talent at that coaching position. But I think it's much harder to do than it is for a coach to make up for a lack of talent at the quarterback position. Now, speaking of Pat Mahomes and Josh Allen, they both faced off against each other in Arrowhead, with Buffalo Bills coming away with a 24-20 win. Now, this was really, really interesting. Both teams did not score until the second quarter. And that was with Josh Allen, who threw for 329 yards on 27 of 40. He had 3 touchdowns and had a 117.6 or 117.6 QBR. On the other hand, Pat Mahomes had a 338-yard outing, 2 touchdowns, but had 2 interceptions, and an 85.2 QBR. Now, this was really, really, really interesting, especially towards the end of the game, which is really where I want to be talking about. And that is at the very end, Josh Allen was given the ball, and I believe that they had around 4 to 3 minutes left on the clock. They were able to go all the way down, and they were able to end with a touchdown to Dawson Knox on the towards the middle sideline of the end zone, and that gave them the 4-point lead. Now, obviously, we saw Patrick Mahomes during when they faced against the Buffalo Bills last season during the postseason, where they had 13 seconds. They were able to go all the way and get a field goal to tie the game and send it to overtime, and ultimately win that game in overtime with a touchdown to Travis Kelce. So, me obviously, having flashbacks to that moment with a lot more time on the clock, was thinking, oh, Patrick Mahomes is going to come out and he's going to go down the field and he's going to score a touchdown and take another game out of, the Buffalo Bills' nose. But then we saw him throw a ball to the rookie, I believe, Sky Moore. And at the very end of the game, or it wasn't the very, very end of the game per se, but obviously it was a game-sealing play where he threw a crucial interception to, I believe, Taron Johnson to seal the game. And the reason why I want to talk about this play so much is it's you have two guys on that offensive end. Obviously, Travis Kelce, who caught 8 balls for 108 yards. But then you had Juju Smith-Schuster, who had 5 receptions for 113 yards. Two guys that were having great days. And he didn't look both their ways during that last play. Now, he also had a I don't know if I can go as far as saying questionable play, but a throw to Marquise Valdez-Scantling, where it was more of like a jump ball to him. And instead of, obviously if that's, your top player, whether that's Kelce, or obviously in this game, Smith-Schuster, or like if you were Josh Allen throwing it up to like Stephon Diggs, and you give him your best player a chance to make a play on the ball, that's understandable. But with MVS, who's like your third, fourth option on that team, for you to throw a jump ball to him at a crucial moment like that, that's just because MVS is more of a speed guy than he is a jump ball kind of dude. And obviously most of the defense is going to know on a crucial play like that, Kelce is most likely going to get the ball. But for that kind of play to come out, especially with Juju Smith-Schuster having a game that he did, and Kelce, obviously we know who he is, I feel like that was another crucial mistake that I don't think a lot of people will be talking about because of the interception that he threw at the very end of the game. Now, despite the loss to the Bills, I don't think that you can immediately say Josh Allen is a better quarterback than Patrick Mahomes based off of this win. I don't think whether Josh Allen lost or won this game, it was either one was not going to put him any higher than Patrick Mahomes, at least on my personal list, because we saw that happened throughout the season of last season, which they lost during the postseason to Patrick Mahomes. And Patrick Mahomes has a resume that we already know is established. It's not in question. We don't have to project that for him like we do with Josh Allen. We think that he's going to win the MVP. We see him winning a championship later down the road. And I think that's really what differentiates Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. Now, if we're just talking about pure talent, that's a whole different discussion that one can have. But if we're just talking about better player in the grand scheme of things in their career and what they have accomplished in this league, I don't think it's any question that it should be Patrick Mahomes. And if you're pondering that for any reason, tell me what Josh Allen has done that Patrick Mahomes hasn't. And then on the flip side, tell me what Patrick Mahomes has done that Josh Allen hasn't. I think once Allen builds his resume, whether it's a MVP, whether it's a championship, whatever the case may be, I think that's when we can really have a discussion between these two players on an equal playing field. But from a talent standpoint, as I mentioned before, that is definitely a discussion that one can have. But I think with no questions asked, Patrick Mahomes is still the better quarterback despite losing this game. And it will really prove, he will really have to prove that he is really that dude, especially during the postseason and obviously in the upcoming weeks as well. Now, for our final topic of this episode, we're going to be talking about the undefeated, still Philadelphia Eagles over the Dallas Cowboys with a 26-17 win. The big thing that I really wanted to see out of this game was out of Jalen Hurts specifically. And that's because he's playing, if not the best defense, then one of the best defenses of the season so far. And in the Dallas Cowboys, who haven't, outside of their first game, haven't given out a 20-point plus outing to any team. And so a lot of people were questioning Jalen Hurts and his ability to be in that superstar category or a franchise category because he really hadn't played against a bunch of great defenses. Now, I wasn't looking for Hurts to play and throw for 350 yards and 3 touchdowns, but I was looking for him to command that offense, have be a leader in that locker room, and then ultimately will them to a win. And the biggest thing is, if you look at the box score, he only threw for 155 yards and 2 touchdowns, was 15 of 25, and a QBR of 104.6. Now, on the ground, he ran 9 times for 27 yards, and most importantly, he had 1 fumble, but it was not a turnover, with Jason Kelce getting the recovery. And what was really, really, I guess, impactful to me during this game was when they had I believe it was a 22-10 lead, and then I don't know. Well, it was I don't remember exactly when it was. But Philadelphia, or I'm sorry, the Dallas Cowboys, they came down and Ezekiel Elliott rushed in for a touchdown. And immediately, off of that next drive, Jalen Hurts was able to bring his offense and score once again, and just, score more points immediately and extend their lead. And that was really, really important for me because it showed that, despite them giving up the touchdown, despite them, losing their, or I guess cutting their lead, they were able to respond, and that offense was able to be confident in who they were and their ability to execute in that key moment where they were able to respond and be like, hey, you guys just scored, well, let us score again, so you have to score again. You have to. And it was just applying the pressure on Cooper Rush, especially, to command another drive to score once again. I think another thing that people aren't talking about enough is this defense and the number of takeaways that they're able to generate throughout the game. Dallas turned the ball over 3 times. Cooper Rush, he threw 3 interceptions, and that really changed the game, especially early on when those were being thrown. One of them, I don't think you can say was his fault, but the other 2, I definitely think you can put it on him. It was just hard for Dallas to generate turnovers against this team because Jalen Hurts and the Eagles have only turned the ball over or given the ball away 2 times. I think they're the team that is leading the league in turnovers to giveaways. Their ability to take the ball away without giving the ball to the other team is staggering. They're able to keep the ball and take the ball away from the team, giving them short yardage, short fields, and that allows their offense to have more confidence and they're able to score points. And the defense, obviously, they're going to be confident when they're generating those kind of takeaways. Are they in that conversation to be Super Bowl contenders? I think that has to be asked at this point, especially after we saw Jalen Hurts, although he didn't flourish and drop like 250 plus against this defense. I think it does put them in that conversation to make the NFC Championship. I think that they are definitely one of, if not the best team in this league right now. They're on a hot streak, obviously, with them being undefeated still, and it I guess it makes me curious to see how far this team can go and how they can execute down the stretch. And really, when they're in a kind of shootout game, if Jalen Hurts can really come in to that moment and pull his team to a win. And so I think it's going to be really, really interesting for week 7 and, the games that we'll see, especially obviously with the NBA starting now. But I hope you have enjoyed this episode. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Stay positive, stay motivated. Peace out.